Okay. Berkheimer House was whispered about often in Hollywood. Originally from Chicago, he was suspected of being a murderer. All the actresses at the studio were concerned for their safety. Pete Netherton, his assistant, had a more comforting demeanor. It was generally believed that Burke planned to leave the business, and many hoped he would hurry. Okay, so we're back to omniscient again. We know what everybody thinks. This is kind of bizarre to know what everybody thinks at any moment, and yet not to know what some people think at any moment. The combination is, it's not a point of view that's acceptable to readers. The storyline may be fantastic, but readers are not going to be able to get to it because they're going to be thrown off by this point of view mistake. It could be made all omniscient. If the author is very familiar with omniscient, prefers omniscient, this could be made omniscient by letting us know what's going on in each person's mind. Or it could be made not omniscient and stick to one person's viewpoint per scene. You could make the scenes quite short. If the author wants to get a lot of point of views across really quickly at the beginning, he could make the scenes short, but each scene has to have all the requirements for a scene. A scene's not just cut off at a random moment. There's the goal that's stated by the main character, that the main character is pursuing, and then there's some kind of conflict that comes up around that goal, and then there's some disaster that happens that makes the character not able to attain that goal. And then after that, at some point we have the response to that. So we have the character pulling back and thinking about it, figuring out what to do about this dilemma, and then making the next step to move forward. And if you don't have at least the first half of that to where it gets to the disaster, unless it's one of the unusual scenes where things actually work out at the end or seem to work out at the end, then it can be a false hope ending. But you need some change from the beginning to the end, a drastic change from the beginning to the end regarding that goal. So all that has to happen in a scene. So if you can have a very quick scenes where you are going from one character's viewpoint to another and accomplish all that in a scene, that's another option of how to handle this kind of story. To revise it if you have a story that's something like this. Let's see, where were we? I would suggest not having it be omniscient, because omniscient's not popular. So not including anything like all the actresses were concerned about their safety. You would have instead, a lot of actresses had talked to one of these characters, whichever character you're talking about, had mentioned to her that they're concerned about their safety. But don't let us see into all the actresses' minds. That's way too much for us to take in and care about. I don't care about every single actress there. I don't know them. It's a mass of people that I will never meet. I mean, I'm sorry they're feeling that way, but I'm not, my heart's not pounding over it. Simone knew, okay, now we're in Simone's point of view, that Betty wanted to become an actress. Simone figured she should tread lightly. Who are you working with next, Betty? Frankie. Have fun. Simone became less embarrassed now about not inviting Betty to the announcement soiree. Betty could turn into an actress one day, and Simone imagined she'd be sparking with Frankie. Enjoy yourself, Betty. Okay, the enjoy yourself, have fun, it's not really establishing much about their relationship or the subtext, how they really feel about each other, how they present themselves to the world, how they feel about themselves, how they're used to, being playful or not playful, or, it's not an insight into their personalities. So we've gotten this far, we have no insight into anybody's personalities directly yet. Simone became less embarrassed, okay. After spraying Nora's hair, Betty smiled genuinely at the actress Simone. The three actresses took off to begin work. while Frankie approached the smiling Betty. I plan to have a good time, the stylist said, chuckling. Okay, have a good time, have a good time. I plan to have a good time. We're not getting much depth here. We're staying on the surface. Everything is staying on the surface and there's no subtext.